Good morning, everybody. All of us. My name is Andy Wolf. I'm the director of the New Mexico History Museum in the Palace of the Governors, and it's an honor to welcome you here this morning. When Andrea Pauly and Madeline Boulding approached the museum several months ago with the idea of an interdisciplinary symposium bringing together artists, scientists, artists, and others to discuss biodiversity and other topics under the umbrella theme of I Love Life, I immediately said yes, really having no real idea of what I was saying yes to. The History Museum stands for interdisciplinary storytelling and learning, as we believe there are unnumbered paths via science, history, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, STEAM as we call it, toward making sense of the full freight, in our case, of 500 years of regional history. As I tell everyone who asks, what is the best way to understand history? I echo the words of my first history professor at the University of Southern California in 1989, who said, history must always be approached from an assumption of complexity. Well, that statement reminded me that all phenomena, man-made and otherwise, should begin from and with this attitude. As I reviewed the roster of speakers and others who will be contributing to this conference over these days, I was of course duly impressed with the array of scholarly and artistic orientations each of you bring to this meeting. I must also state my appreciation for our audience, who also represent multiple intelligences. I myself have always been interested in the hidden interrelationships of all things, exploring the intersections of nature, philosophy, art, and science. We gain new perspective on humanity's place in the universe, as there exist real and conceptual threads unifying all existence, which can be understood any number of ways, via classical philosophy, Newtonian optics, the Spanish Inquisition, Darwin's voyage on the Beagle, mythical creatures, electromagnetism, Native American religious rites, and through other disciplines as well, some of which may not yet exist, such as, for instance, allegorical astrophysics, cartographic cave art, mythological microbiology, and Kabbalistic quantum mechanics. Since human beings began communicating first with speech and later with drawings and written languages, we have tried to understand the world and our role in it. All cultures have invented stories to explain the origins, structure, and eventual fate of the universe and all things in it. These encompass scriptures revealing the labors of a single omnipotent creator or a pantheon of deities, as well as countless other creation stories. Some traditions even hold that the world is supported on the back of a giant creature, perhaps an elephant or a turtle. This quest for understanding continues today as scientists and artists hunt for elusive subatomic particles they believe will reveal whether the universe will expand forever because of the Big Bang, or contract again into a big crunch eons from now. I see those here today who are interested in the big questions, and there are others from the history of science whose works toward answering these questions were from the start interdisciplinary. From Robert Hooke's Micrographia, which for the first time described and illustrated plant cells, which reminded him of monks' cells in a monastery. And there was Andreas Vesalius, who in his Opera Omnia Anatomica and Chirurgia incorporated lavish illustrations on dissections of the human body, thereby revolutionizing the study of biology and the practice of medicine. The list goes on, such as Louis-Jacques Monde Daguerre, the French painter and physicist who pioneered an early photographic process that produced positive images on a silver-coated copper plate. There was Conrad Gessner, who established the field of modern zoology with his encyclopedic Historia Animalium, the first modern attempt to document all of the known animal species, and this was in 1551. And of course, there is Sir Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica, first published in 1687, and justly considered the most important book in the history of science, featuring Newton's laws, which would reign supreme in the world of physics until the discovery of quantum mechanics nearly 200 years later. So what could any of this have to do with museums, we wonder? Why are we meeting here today? If you'll permit me a couple more minutes, I'd like to share a few more thoughts on interdisciplinarity and the encyclopedic impulse of understanding human and natural phenomena via these many seemingly unrelated paths. The etymological origins of the term museum derive from the Greek museon, the shrine of the muses who presided over the arts and sciences. What is broadly defined as the first museum, the Library of Alexandria, flourished in the 3 centuries before the Common Era and housed primarily texts on papyrus rolls whose interpretation by a community of scholars offered a better understanding of what was then the ancient world. Though this forum was more a philosophical academy based on an archive of documents than a repository of artifacts intended for display, it thrived on the ethos of education and discovery through the exploration of world history. This research function has remained a fixture throughout the evolution of museums and reflects the modern museum value of learning through the study and display of material culture. The role, function, philosophy, nature, and structure of museums have shifted considerably over the last 2,000 years. The human predilection for collecting artifacts began in earnest in the domain of Greek temples that featured, more or less on permanent display, votive offerings of priceless objects, including paintings and sculptures. The medieval period saw little grounded practice in collecting, except, for example, ornate reliquaries and cathedral architecture itself for use in religious liturgy. Though the collecting and display of objects is a practice that predates the modern era, the concept of the museum as a milieu to enhance the cultural literacy of the individual found its genesis in the private collections of European nobility from the 16th through to the 18th centuries. The Wunderkammer, or Cabinet of Curiosities, reflected the encyclopedic impulse of the age and featured an array of artifacts from the natural and man-made worlds. The first formal attempt at establishing a system of knowledge based on the gathering of artifacts denotes the emergence of taxonomy, the process of classification, within collecting practices. A prominent cabinet was that of the Amerbach family in Basel, Switzerland. This assemblage of art and curiosities would form the basis of the first public museum in the world, which opened its doors in 1671. Another type of collection that began as a private holding made public is the Royal Treasury. The most noteworthy, the Louvre Museum, opened to the public in 1793 after the fall of the Bourbon dynasty during the French Revolution. Hailed as a symbol of Republican virtues as it promoted civic pride and the Enlightenment value of learning, it also provided visitors with ideological and aesthetic education. The museum as a fixture in modern public life came of age with the arrival of the Great Exhibition of 1851. Housed in Joseph Paxton's Crystal Palace, this first World's Fair intended to improve both the quality of industrial design in everyday life and to improve the taste of the average visitor. This showcasing of cultural artifacts, from machines and their products to fine art within the spectacle of the exhibition building itself, served the globalizing function of bringing together nations, their peoples, and their products under one roof. One of the more notable vicissitudes of this event was its evolution into the Victorian and Albert Museum, the V&A, which also offered visitors evening admission due to the technological advances of gas lighting. This effort to appeal to the culturally disenfranchised remains a vital goal of museums today. Today, the broad spectrum of museums reflects the civic and educative ideals of their 18th and 19th century predecessors. Museums dedicated to archaeology, art, ethnography, history, human and natural, geology, science, military history, industry, and general encyclopedic museums aim to narrate a universal history through their vast collections of artifacts from around the world. The recent ferment in intellectual inquiry focused on the role of museums in domestic and global culture has proven catalytic in the development of the creative subdiscipline of museum studies. As mirrors of reality, but also places of experimentation, where reality can be interpreted and reinterpreted, museums and the study of their history, theory, and practice has re-energized and influenced a positive discourse between what were once considered artificially isolated disciplines including art history, anthropology, ethnic studies, international relations, and biodiversity. Whether museums serve as temples, schools, or treasure houses, or indeed fluctuate between these various identities, they have broadened their scope by becoming something more than a repository of precious objects that serve public memory. Museums now have robust public programming beyond the galleries that include traditional lecture series, or non-traditional, as this case may be, music programs, film festivals, family experiences, and free evening admission on chosen days. As museums morph further into cultural centers, they inevitably continue to fight against the notion that they exist only for the privileged. Making these institutions relevant to a range of visitors from across the socioeconomic spectrum remains a primary concern for all museums today. So with that, welcome all, and it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Andrea Polly, who is currently a professor of art and ecology with appointments in the College of Fine Arts and School of Engineering at the University of New Mexico. She holds the Mesa del Sol Endowed Chair of Digital Media and directs the Social Media Work Group, a lab at the university's Center for Advanced Research Computing. Polly is an artist working at the intersection of art, science, and technology, whose practice includes media installation, public interventions, curating and directing art and community projects, and writing. She has been creating media and technology artworks related to environmental science issues since 1999, when she first began collaborating with atmospheric scientists on sound and data sonification projects. Someday I'm going to ask her exactly what that is. Among other organizations, she has worked with the NASA Goddard Institute Climate Research Group in New York City, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, and Air Now. Polly's work with art and science, technology, has been presented widely in over 100 presentations, exhibitions, and performances internationally, including the Whitney Museum of American Art, Artport, and the Field Museum of Natural History, and has been recognized by numerous grants, residencies, and awards, including the National Science Foundation, Fulbright, and UNESCO. She holds an MFA from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago and a doctorate in practice-led research from the University of Plymouth in the UK. Her latest book is Far Field, Digital Culture, Climate Change, and the Polls on Intellect Press. And I'm just going to barrel on through and introduce Madeline Boulding as well, since I'm up here. It's truly my pleasure. Madeline Boulding works with AmeriCorps Vista, a national service program designed to alleviate poverty. President John F. Kennedy originated the idea for Vista, which was founded as Volunteers in Service to America in 1965, and incorporated into the AmeriCorps network of programs in 1993. Madeline also works with Biocultura. You'll hear a lot more about that from Andrea, I believe, which is an educational institute in Santa Fe made up of an artist-designer team which combines public art, architecture, and networked media to create and host artworks focused on the environment and social transformation. Since the opening in April 2017, Madeline's daily work has aligned with her Vista service by building community participation in northern New Mexico. Her background of informal science outreach has played a large part in her work as a Vista in New Mexico through increasing networks within the biology outreach scene. Last but not least, Madeline holds a PhD in genetics from the University of Missouri and a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Kansas State. I would also like to mention, with admiration, Madeline's 3 years of working as a mentor in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program of Central Missouri. Please join me in welcoming Andrea Polly. Thank you. And 2 very quick housekeeping notes. Please silence your cell phones. And the facilities, if you should need them, are on this level down here. You can exit through the double doors. They're just down the hall. There's also drinking fountains. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here at the New Mexico History Museum with I Love Life. And as Andrew mentioned, my partner John Donalds and I started Biocultura about a year ago as a format centered around a small house here in Santa Fe, to focus on biology, art, science, and culture. And since when we started, we were honored to have Dr. Madeline Boulding come on as an AmeriCorps Vista and help be a coordinator of Biocultura. And since we started 1 year ago, we've done 10 community and public events at Biocultura and beyond. So we started to expand to lasers. Susan Latham joined us to help to coordinate Leonardo Art Science Evening Rendezvous. There'll be one tonight that I'll talk about more. And focusing on a more general art, science, and culture community. So when we wanted to put together I Love Life as a way to mark the 1 year anniversary of Biocultura here in Santa Fe, and we approached the History Museum, had a wonderful reception from Andrew and Tay here at the History Museum, and we started to look at, well, what really is the history of biology and genetic science here in New Mexico. And the recent history since the 80s has been pretty dramatic. The first meeting was held here in Santa Fe that launched the Human Genome Project. And those of you, probably most of you who are here know that the Human Genome Project was really a gargantuan effort similar to that of putting a man on the moon. A lot of the instrumentation and the techniques that made the Human Genome Project possible happened at Los Alamos Labs. We'll have a speaker from Los Alamos here today and tomorrow. And so it was fascinating to see the role that New Mexico and specifically Santa Fe and Los Alamos had played in genetic science. So without saying a lot more, you'll see a lot more of me. I'm going to come up and introduce all of the speakers. So I want to get things moving. I just want to thank our volunteers. Madeline, as Andrew mentioned, is part of the AmeriCorps Vista project, but I also want to thank our other AmeriCorps Vistas who are here volunteering today. Paul Ward, Laura Merck, Brittany King, and Isaiah Smith, who is up in the back videotaping. I'd also like to thank the New Mexico Consortium that gave us a grant to make this happen, the University of New Mexico, AmeriCorps Vista, of course, and the Bradbury Museum, and Francesca Samsel, who you'll see here throughout the weekend, who put together the exhibition. There's a small pop-up exhibition at our registration desk on climate perspectives. And so make sure to check that out. So without any further delay, I would like to invite Andrew Thomas, who is a well-known here in New Mexico, but also well-known around the world. He's traveled around the world performing Navajo flute, and he's here today to perform and bless our proceedings today. We're going to be talking about a lot of difficult topics, and this will be a way for us to focus our thoughts. So thank you so much, Andrew.
How's that for an entrance? Thank you. شيء ياها خلصون شلون بتاني باش تشين كي اني داش شيء سنا بثني داش نله but I didn't shle. As I come to you, I don't look above you or below you, and I've introduced my time-honored clan system. As I come into this life as an infant, I honored my mom as to journey this life. I also introduced my father's clan, which by that time of my road of life, I'm an adolescent. Also, as in continuation, I've introduced my paternal grandparents. By that time, I'm parenting. So I'm walking this journey of what is our circle of life. And finally, I introduced my paternal grandparents. By that time, I'm older and hopefully wiser to implement and to talk about and to really look at what is right from wrong and proceed from that. I'm often asked, what kind of Indian am I? And I tell them I'm a good Indian. But I think rather than enunciating or introducing yourself through, our record-keeping name, Andrew Thomas, what kind of Indian name is that? And they always often ask me, well, do you have an Indian name? And I said, my name is Andrew Stands Around, because I stand around. As we walk into partnership with our Mother Earth, Father Sky, the cosmic, the universe, we reach out. As I've sung this song as an intro, it's a traveling song. A lot of our elders have traveled from point A to B for ceremony, for gathering, baby's first laugh, coming of age, healing ceremony, to ask the Yindane holy people if it's okay to travel. And if it's okay to travel, keep me out of harm's way. So in that reflection, it also reflects you. We have traveled and come from every walks of life, and we create this beautiful circle as we're strong, to emphasize us as brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter who you pray to, what ethnicity, what language you speak, we go into the same place, into the next world. As we believe that we have emerged through the underworld, as believing, we also drink the same color of water as you do. But we're from every walks of life, globally. Skin color may be different, inside is the same. My blood is red, yours is red, hopefully. My prayer is the same as yours. We ask for peace, balance, harmony. As we live in a very troubled time, I'm going to do a little prayer. And as the end of the prayer, or from the beginning of the prayer, we say, let there be blessing from here. At the end of my prayer, let me walk in peace and balance before me, behind me, above me, below me and all around me. So I render this prayer for you. Kodo hojon olet na hasan shama. Yadal kil shjad digin lini. Digin de no lini. Kodo bin na chinjno nasi tlin. Adan ade yital. Nikiket ade do nikitsit aje. Ben khaliyan dole. Hayos khas nohdet lij nohdet so chahal kelcha nahol au nahsan شاخل يادله ناخل يادله خاطن لو هذا شتا نهكونس نيثني ياثني اعتقد بين هيك هوجون دوله بتسيش تلجني دليني بلاش تلاني دليني بين الناجي كونش ما نهستان بكهويت هوجون دوله بين نشنجلون نادك خدوله بين النشخنا أوت آدو أنا أوت آدو له بخوجون لان صن بجوا أني زيدو له أسست زينجة وجونا هستلين وجونا هستلين وجونا هستلين وجونا هستلين. As a closing, I'm going to play a song, it's called Shinna Sha, and it has a lot of ties to troubled times. As we've been incarcerated for 4 years, a place called Huelte, Fort Sumner. My people, the Neh, is who I am. People of the earth. Earth surface people, as we all become. As they've been released to go back to the Nebuchadnezzar, Navajo land, our ancestors, our forefathers have composed a song despite and minuses of what they have suffered. Because my people thought there will be hope. Perceived to good life to go back to our homeland. And this is called Shinasha. Shinasha. Shenasha, Shenasha, Beka, Ojola, Iahe, Naya. Shenasha, 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 Beka, Ojola, Iahe, Naya. Atla, Gonasha, Atla, Gonasha. Thank you.